that heartbreaking loss for him against Storm, but sitting there, and then Adam Barnello in 12th. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Star City Games Open Series Legacy Quarterfinals. I'm Gavin Verhey. I'm joined by Jacob Van Lunen, and we're here to bring you live coverage of the Star City Games Open Series here in Edison, New Jersey. These guys are playing two really interesting decks in Legacy. On the right, you have Mike Eisenhauer, who is in some ways the story of this weekend, one of the mini stories of this weekend. He's a player who hasn't really had any breakout finishes, but is a great Magic Online player. Eisenhauer Magic Online, for those who know him, has been playing a lot, and finally top 8 of the standard portion, made it all the way to the finals before falling to Patrick Sullivan with his blue-white Kago deck. And here today, just came straight off of his final matchup, played Affinity, and he's made it all the way to the top 8 again. He's Affinity with no Glimpse of Natures, just Galvanic Blasts, and going to try to kill his opponents as fast as possible. Eric English, who the camera's on right now, is playing blue-red-green Threshold, a deck we haven't seen a lot of for a while, but maybe this is a good metagame for it. It's possible it's making a resurgence, and yeah, Canadian Thresh is what it's called. And
it's an old school deck. It's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting to see it play out. It could be the deck that's really good in this metagame. We're gonna find out. This is gonna be a pretty exciting match for us to bring you here. I'm excited to see what happens. This is a matchup you don't really think about constantly, like, oh, how does Canadian Threshold do against Affinity? So I really don't know.
It's something we used to think about like 4 years ago all the time, right?
yeah, sure. And who knows how the matchup has evolved.
Oh yeah, both are. I'm sure like entirely different decks now. I doubt we're going to see any werebears from Eric.
No, there will be no exercising the right to bear arms in this top 8.
It's one of the best flavor texts I've ever read.
I think it's one of the most, Mark Rosewater talked about this in one of his articles. It's one of the most polarizing flavor texts, I think, he felt, because some people love it and some people absolutely hate it. It's the pun in the flavor text of that card.
I always thought it was funny. It's a bear. Yeah, it's lycanthrope bear. Funny.
It's got so many creature types now.
It's a druid also.
Yeah, I was playing in some Odyssey events on Magic Online when they were doing some 64-man drafts, and I drafted, and I was like, oh, there's so many creature types on this werebear.
Check real quick. So,
yeah, a human bear druid. That's what werebear is. An interesting combination of creature types.
Oh, he's a human?
Yeah, a human bear druid.
Human bear?
Yeah, a human bear druid. A common combination.
Man.
I mean, he is the lycanthrope, right? So it makes sense.
Jeez. I didn't even know that was...
I don't know. Apparently there's a thing for everything. So anyway, back to the match at hand. Eric English leads off with Misty Rainforest here. And Eisenhauer drops, here we go, it's Affinity time. Ornithopter, Memnite. I talked to Eisenhauer. The card that's
Memnite.
The card that's brand new for this deck is Signal Pest, which really gives a lot of explosiveness to all these 0 drops.
Thoughtcast. Wow, this is a lot of stuff.
Yep, and Eric English is just looking over the board. I'm not sure if he has a force. Nope, he lets it resolve. There's a Signal Pest right there, the card I was just talking about. Signal Pest comes down. Yeah, alright, I guess that's a fair turn 1. Go. 6 permanents pass.
It's 5 points of power. Hey, still some cards.
It's certainly threatening, and that Signal Pest is going to be difficult to deal with, especially if it gets suited up with something like a cranial plating. And Eric English goes for the fetch with Mr. Rainforest.
So, in a deck like Mike's, Galvanic Blast is a very spicy little number.
It is our deal for, unless you're losing really badly, in which case you probably don't need Galvanic Blast to pull you out.
It's not really worth it. Don't worry about it.
You kill Kataki, but and for those who are tuning into us now, during the top 8, we're going to be giving away a ton of premium.
Yeah, in the quarterfinal match, we're giving away 3 months of premium. In the semifinal match, we're giving away 6 months of premium. And in the finals match, we're going to give away a whole year of premium.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some trivia questions for you guys during the top 8. And then you guys can post that stuff online. The hashtag is at at SCG Live giveaways. Is that for this though, or what is it now?
Hashtag SCG Premium is where you should
Okay.
do it. So make sure, get your hashtags ready, type it in, and we'll choose one person.
There it is. It's on the screen for you guys
It's
now.
on the screen right now for those. That's the hashtag you should type it in. We're not going to give you the question quite yet. We'll give it to you after this game. But type that in, get it ready, and we'll choose one person out of everyone who submits. And that person will get 3 months of premium on Star City Games. A lot of great content. Almost assuredly, we're going to get a tournament report for Patrick Sullivan, I'd imagine, after his performance this weekend.
I'd be really excited to read that.
Meanwhile, back in the game, English plays a volcanic island after brainstorming and passes back. And Eisenhower's going to get in for at least 5 this turn. Looks like, is that a worker in Eisenhower's hand is coming down? Yeah, it looks like Arcbound Worker. The other card in his hand seems to be Aether Vial. And I think that's Galvanic Blast. I see a red card.
That might be a Ravager and a Galblast.
Alright, so here comes Worker. Here comes Mirror Enforcer.
Ooh, he's a big boy.
Wow, a lot of people have been focusing on different versions of Affinity lately. Glint Hawk, oh wow, Fire. That's a nice little card there. Takes down a lot of power. Now only 1 point gets in on that.
Really good in that spot.
Yeah, Fire Ice, a card, Canadian Threshold staple. And
that's a card Mike definitely has not played against all day.
Yeah, probably not played against a lot of Fires. Wastelands down Vault of Whispers, the dreaded artifact land, and he passes back. Still mocks Opal, giving Mike Eisenhower mana here. And Mike can still crash in for 6.
You still got some beats.
Yep, and here comes 6 damage. Eric has no responses and drops to 12 life.
Like, plays another Arcbound Worker.
Yep,
Arcbound Worker is one of those good creatures, because even though you eat him up with a blocker who's slightly larger, he's going to pump up that Enforcer, make it harder to deal with at later stages of the game. He's probably going to put the counter on the Ornithopter to give him something with evasion.
Brian Kibler pointed out on Twitter that Eric could have cast Fire on his own turn to prevent Mirror Enforcer from coming down. An interesting play. I wonder if he was trying to represent perhaps a counterspell or maybe something else. But, with Force of Will in the format, you can do that even when you're tapped out and days.
It's true.
So, interesting play by English. Might have had a reason behind it. It's also just potentially not used to playing against Mirror Enforcer.
It's not a card you're necessarily expecting.
Sure.
Affinity decks haven't really been playing it as of late.
So, Mike brings with 7 points, attacks with Ornithopter, 2.
Yeah, I mean, if he kills one of the workers, Mike wants the Ornithopter to be turning sideways.
Good old modular mechanic. And it looks like Eric's casting something. Vendelion Click comes down.
Yeah, now Mike might be a little bit frustrated that he attacked with that Thopter.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Click might eat that Thopter. But then again, if it eats the Thopter, Mike is going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage.
Yeah, which brings me down to 5, I believe.
Yep, and he Gal Blasts that Vendelion Click.
Okay.
And ends up targeting himself with the Vendelion Click.
This opponent's 7, putting him at 5.
And Eric draws, looking for an answer. See a Force in his hand, and that's it.
Packs it in.
How about that Affinity draw? Still got fired, and didn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, jeez. That was
Nice
a lot
little-
of stuff on
nice
the table on turn 1.
Turn 1, 6 permanents, go. That is what Affinity does best. All right, are you ready for listeners?
you drew 2 cards that turn, too.
Yeah, draw 2 cards off Thoughtcast. That seems reasonable.
It's pretty good.
So are you guys ready for our 3 months of premium giveaway? Get your hashtags ready to answer this exciting question. Who in the top 8 also made top 8 last week in the Star City Games Open Series, Legacy portion?
Excellent question.
We talked about this not that long ago. He was in the booth. And I'd love to know how many of you people know who it is.
Are you sure you top 8 last week?
He said he did. Let me double check. here, right there.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Nice.
So so tell us who that player is. We were double checking. I was pretty sure he was he made top 8, but we didn't want to give you a question with no answer because that would just be mean. So tweet us that answer. Remember, the hashtag is hashtag SCG Premium, and we'll give it away sometime during this match.
Now, guys, we're asking for the player who top 8'd both this Legacy event and last week's Legacy event.
Not the
this
standard
morning
event.
Standard event.
Very important distinction, because there is a player who has done that in this top 8, and we're watching him right now.
Yeah. The answer to the trivia question is not one of the 2 players we're watching right now. Narrow it down a little bit for you guys at home.
So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. That affinity draw, man, I have not seen that happen in quite a while, but it's very, very strong. That's what affinity does best.
I mean, this has got to be the best weekend ever for Mike.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, from a player who, like you said, started the weekend, didn't really have any top 8s under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, he's, top 8'd maybe a couple PTQs, but not many, and he's been playing for a really long time. He's really been, he's constantly tried to work on his game. He's also just always, been somebody who just plays a ton of Magic and just brews a ton of decks, and he's always, playing different decks, and he's always wanted to do really well. And this weekend, it seems like he really came out of his shell. He came in 2nd place in the standard event. Now he's here in the top 8 of the Legacy event. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
That type of consistency shows that it's not just luck. That you're actually doing something correctly.
I mean, it's amazing what a little bit of confidence will do for you. I mean, he certainly got that boost from the first half, and I think we're almost seeing a different player. I mean, you could just tell in the way his demeanor. Like yesterday when he made top 8,
he was shaking.
He was shaking. I talked to him when he came over here to tell us that he made top 8 in this event. He looked perfectly calm.
Oh yeah.
So there you go.
He expects to win the tournament.
How about that attitude? Certainly something people have talked about in the past, right? The attitude, the winning attitude. If you come in expecting to win, not
he's
cocky.
also tired though. That's the other thing.
Sure. That's numbing his senses.
He's been playing since 8 a.m. He had to play all 3 rounds. You think it's tiring to commentate on it? He's literally played every single round of this entire weekend.
Absolutely, and fortunately for him, he's picked a deck that's little forgiving.
Yeah.
Affinity, where his games are like, blah, here's my hand. Blah, do you have an answer? No, blah. So.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was like.
Pretty good, and even Eric English came out with a fire last game, and still wasn't enough to stop Mike Eisenhower's third onslaught.
The perfect card to beat him. Your opponent plays a Mem Knight and a Signal Pest, and you have a Fire Ice in your hand, and you're on the play, and you lose.
Oh man, yeah, it's interesting how we have affinity in this top 8 when Scars, when Mirrodin is the current block that's coming out. Just brings you back to when affinity was around the first time. Not exactly the brightest days, but certainly makes it an interesting Legacy deck. It's good to note that its power level is fair in some formats. Man. Here we go. The players are shuffling up. Eric, I'm sure, is hoping for a better draw. This seems like not a great matchup for Eric English, just from the way the first game played out. Mike can deploy his threats so fast.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a deck full of 0 drops.
Man.
And that's the whole plan here. I played a similar deck, an extended PTQ, just, the Court Homunculus, Tempered Steel deck.
Sure.
I was just doing that type of play sometimes where I played Mox Opal alongside Mem Knights and Ornithopters on turn 1, and then played Steel Overseer. And it's the same idea. These decks are they can vomit their hand on the table and just steal games away. Mike's this is really innovative, though. I haven't really seen something like this.
Yeah, speaking of the Tempered Steel deck.
What's it?
Speaking of Tempered Steel decks, how do you feel about the extended deck, the Tempered Steel, the archetype? Because Jonathan Smithers, the original person who played the deck during at Worlds and really brought it into everyone's light, wrote an article in Stars to Games this week about an updated version of the deck, and so there's a lot going on, a lot of new cards from Mirrodin Besiege he suggested playing. Signal Pest was one of them, which we see in Mike Eisenhower's deck here. And let's see, Eric English leads off with an island. And Mike Eisenhauer, Seat of the Synod, his equivalent of an island. And turn 1, he's got Memnite, Springleaf Drum. In the innocuous Lorewind Common allows him to tap it and another creature to get a mana, which can turbo out some draws pretty fast.
The Springleaf Drum is an incredibly strong card when you're playing this many 0 casting cost creatures.
Yeah, for sure. It just gives you an extra mana sometimes, and as an artifact, reduces the count for your Mirror Enforcer. So yeah, here we go. Only 4 permanents this time on the first turn. Memnite, Springleaf Drum, Frogmite. I guess we can't have 6 permanents every time. Eric English, on the other hand,
upsetting.
Trying to find a way to deal with this fast assault. So we see a Fire Ice, which is going to be pretty good for him. At least take down 1 creature, but 1/4 removal is going to be kind of rough against the Affinity Onslaught.
Yeah, now that Fire Ice here is not nearly as strong as it was in the last game. As of right now, it's really only going to shoot a Frogmite.
Right. Of course, who knows what Mike's going to have next turn. We could see some Signal Pest potentially.
Yeah, Eric also may be playing with a little bit of fear at this point because, you know, now he's afraid of what can happen if he passes the turn without using his removal on his own turn. And he might not get as juicy of a fire as he might like to.
That's certainly true. Let's see, so we have Arcbound Ravager. Alright, and that gets Spell Snared pretty quickly. So down goes Ravager. Frogmite serves in for 2, and is that it for Eisenhauer? Or is he?
Like that.
Yep. Passes back. Alright, so Eric has established control with Spell Snare. Or at least on that Ravager, stop the beatdown for a little while. Maybe he's going to fire that Frogmite here? What do you think we're going to see?
I'm not sure if it's worth it at this point. I think at this point he may just want to leave Days up. And if he has any sort of board presence, I can't really see his hand that well. But like a Tarmogoyf would be really good in this spot, even a Nimble Mongoose. Mike has another Ravager. Ooh, Spell Snared again. Attack for 2 again. I think Eric may use the Fire Ice right now.
You attack. They attack. Sorry, okay. Okay, yeah, so you declare your attacks. Yeah, I guess.
Let's see, players shuffling here. And then what do you think he's going to do?
I don't know. I think if he's cracking that fetch land there, then I think it's pretty telling that he wants to Fire and Ice this Frogmite right now. I think with his hand, with the Days and everything, I think he's pretty sure that by casting the Fire Ice right now, he's kind of just taking all the wind out of Mike's sails. He'll be at 18 and be completely stabilized.
Yep, and there goes Fire,
Nice,
taking out that
untap his
Frogmite.
lands.
Yep.
Pretty bad spot for Mike here. Who has another creature here. I think they're correct.
Oh, 4, sorry. My bad. My counting skill.
Eric
a little off kilter there.
thinking through his plays here. Looking good for him this game, but he wants to make sure that he doesn't accidentally make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing against this type of deck that can just be so explosive, you're probably afraid of a lot of different things. He probably knows that a lot of the list play Glimpse now, and he may be afraid of like, you know, just comboing off the Glimpse or something like that out of nowhere.
So the players get full deck lists for this top 8.
Oh,
so
that's good.
So they know everything that's in the other player's deck. So yeah. So without much more to do there, Mike just packs it in. He knows that Eric's got it.
Eric's going to be in a very dangerous situation here. He's going to be on the draw against this deck. It's a somewhat terrifying situation to be in.
Yeah, I mean, what cards do you think? We don't have the deck list in front of us. What cards do you think might be sideboarded in out of either player? Like, what cards could they potentially
Canadian
have?
Thresh typically has Ancient Grudges on its board. I'm not sure if Eric will have those, but back in the day, back when Canadian Thresh was the hotness, you know, everybody ran for Ancient Grudges as soon as the card was printed. So that could be a card he has, and if he has it, it's going to be very strong against Mike.
We didn't see any of that game, so.
We're not quite sure whether or not they're there, but they could be, and they could be very good. As far as Mike's deck goes, Mike probably.
I'm just curious. I'm just trying to get it.
I don't really know how his deck could sideboard that well, because these types of decks are so like polished that sideboarding, you're rarely changing more than 5 cards, and when you do change the cards, like it's kind of like shaving cards depending on whether or not you're on the play or the draw. It's very like Patrick Sullivan-esque style of like winging it with sideboarding when you're playing like a deck that's this aggressive, because this is not like an affinity deck like you're used to. This is like a sly deck that happens to play artifacts.
Right, and you want to have a wide variety of cards to have access to, right? And the players shuffling up here.
And now both these players have fought through a long day, and Legacy is one of those formats that it really, really tests your thinking skills. There's a lot going on in every game of Legacy. We've seen a lot of interactive games throughout the day, and I think this might be one of my favorite formats. It might be my favorite format of all time, newer Legacy.
Yeah, I mean,
as far as constructed goes, there's never been a format where you can play more decks.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many options in this format. It's insane. I mean, we've covered so many different decks today, and it's not even close to being the end of it. And here we are again in the top 8. 2 decks we didn't see once in the Swiss: Affinity and Canadian Threshold.
Oh, we did?
Again, 2 completely new decks. Even now that we're playing in the top 8.
Yeah, definitely. And the players shuffling up, knowing that the third game is on the line. Mike is looking for a fast draw here, and Eric is looking for exactly a way to shut it down. That spell snare was really timely.
Exactly. He wants a hand with spell snares, fire ices. And spell snares might not even be good enough.
All right, well, let's see what Mike Eisenhauer has here. All right, what does it look like to you? I think it's actually cranial plating, frogmite, vault of whispers, maybe an arcbound worker, but I can't catch the rest of it. Okay, so here's his turn 1. Signal Pest, Frogmite, Ornithopter, Memnite, Vault of Whispers. Alright, so he had 6 permanents in the first game on turn 1. 4 on turn 1 in the second game. Maybe 5. Maybe 5 is the push he needs.
Yeah.
Affinity is just so ridiculous. Eric leads on Volcanic Island.
Woof.
And here comes the dreaded disciple of the vault. Eric bolts quickly, snap bolts that Frogmite in response, but Signal Pest still gets in, pumping the Memnite and Ornithopter to deal 2 damage, or 3 damage total.
3 damage total, yeah.
To Eric English.
That bolt was really important. See, it's interesting because Eric's probably the only player playing like this type of burn.
For those who are wondering, the draft open final is still going on with John Finkel. Finkel is currently down a game. We'll let you know as soon as that match finishes, or if Finkel picks up a second game to tie it. So Eric fires back, which is literally fires back, which is pretty good for him, just taking that disciple off the board.
It's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, and Mike doesn't have anything more to do. He seemed to get bottlenecked there. And now Eric... Oh, fire spout.
Top and bottom end of a fire spout.
Only the bottom end.
Ooh.
No green.
Wow, that was not the most profitable fire spout, but I mean, he's already gained enough profit off of his fire and ice and everything.
He's pretty far ahead here. And down comes Arcbound Ravager, the fairy godmother, as Osip Osiplovich called it before. It's we'll see what happens here.
The Ravager is such a beast.
You know, it's actually a creature dash beast.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I
he is such a beast.
might have lost to Patriarch's bidding in the finals of PTQ. Turns out all my creatures had different creature types. Didn't work out so well for me when you're playing Affinity.
I mean, it's such an interesting card. It's one of those cards that really kind of defined Magic for a long period of time.
Oh,
There was
absolutely.
a good, like, 6 month to a year period where, you know, competitive Magic was synonymous with Arcbound Ravager.
Where Ravager ruled the world. But Canadian Thresh is slowly looking to take control. Mike is trying to get back in it, but his draw here was not super stellar. I think the interesting thing about the newest list is, yes, with Scars of Mirrodin block, you get Memnite, which is great. You get Signal Pest, which is great. But of course, they're both 1 toughness creatures, really opening the deck up to like a card like Fire, which is huge.
Yeah, and I'm sure Eric English is one of very, very few people that are playing Fire in this tournament.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting to note because,
Now,
like,
this is interesting. It's got
I think he goes in here.
I might just move it all in.
Well, he doesn't have to move everything, and nope, he just switches over to the Ornithopter. He figures that Eric must be doing it for a reason. So, I mean, the thing about Affinity is not only are, like, yeah, killing 2 creatures is bad, of course, with Fire, but your artifact count is so crucial that just getting 2 artifacts off the board, too, makes a gigantic difference.
It makes it really hard to play your spells.
Let's see.
This Cradioplating could just do some work.
Let's see. Well, that plating is there, but English has an Engineered Explosives in his hand, which is certainly
Ooh.
going to cause issues.
Yeah, that's gonna put a damper on Mike's plans.
Yeah, absolutely. And in comes Tropical Island.
It seems pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, in his head, Mike's like, well, okay, maybe I can put this cranial plating on this Ornithopter and have a plan. But in reality, I'm pretty sure I saw Explosives in English's hand, and it's going to come down here and
Explosive is
throw
pretty
that
strong
Thopter.
against Mike's deck. You know what card's really, really good against Mike's deck? Pernicious Deed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think he could ever beat that one.
yeah. I mean, it's possible some of the junk decks in the top 8 might have it somewhere, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, I doubt it, but it's interesting that he actually had to fight against Fire Ice. Somewhat unlucky.
And here comes Engineered Explosives for 1. Interesting.
For 1?
He cast Explosives for 1. There's exactly 1 counter on it. Interesting play by English. I'm sure he's playing for something, though. Alright, down comes another Ornithopter. Mike's like trying to figure out why did he put it on 1. I'm not sure. And
Are we sure he put it on 1? I'm not
There-
sure.
there's
Let's
a-
have 2
the-
lands.
there's a counter. No, I think he.
I think that's a dice on. It might be a dice.
Oh, is that a
It's
dice?
shiny.
Oh, there we go. I thought it was just a counter. Okay,
Yeah,
so
there
cranial
we
plating goes down.
Okay.
Yeah, cranial plating goes down. My apologies. So, still Mirror Enforcer. That cranial plating allowed Mirror Enforcer to enter the fray. Now, Tarmogoyf is a card that's really bad for Affinity because all artifact
big.
creatures, yeah, the artifacts go down and really add power to it fast. It's funny, we were talking about this in Extended last season, how like back in the day, Affinity's creatures were also unfair, right? You got like a bunch of 2/2s at a low price, and you know,
You got these 4/4s,
4/4s,
on
yeah.
turn
And
2.
now on turn 2, now people are like, all right, Forest, Crack, Wild and Coddle go.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, just gotta through that having to play all these artifacts.
Yeah, you don't have to play on like people who are playing fair are doing things just as powerful as you. In a lot of
But
cases.
I mean, maybe Signal Pest is a card that might put this over the top. Those Galvanic Blasts have looked really good for Mike too. He's been
Oh, yeah.
talking and singing their praises all weekend. Let's see. So Brainstorm from English.
Ooh, and he finds a Jace. Jace is a pretty good one.
Yeah, Jay certainly can bounce that Mirror Enforcer. I mean, I don't think Eisenhauer can replay it unless he finds an artifact land or a 0 casting cost creature. Or Springleaf Drum. English considering what cards to put back. I see Trinket Mage, Jace, I think 2 Lightning Bolts, and a Tropical Island. And let's see. Okay, so he's thoughts using English here. And we'll get a full view of what English is handed. So yeah, it's Trinket Mage, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt.
It's a pretty good hand.
That Ornithopter deals 1.
Yeah, I doubt Eric thinks Mike's deck has any reach. He still hasn't seen any blast.
Yeah, he has not seen the blast.
I mean, he's
So
eating a lot of damage.
It's possible some runner blast might be able to do something, but... Alright, so he's Fate Sealing. Looks at the card, thinks about it.
Puts it back on top.
Wow. So John Finkel came back in Game 2, won Game 3. In Glenn Jones' own word, he has no idea how John won that game. He was getting rolled over, but they are going to Game 3 regardless. And I guess if anybody can do that, it's John. So John Finkel headed to Game 3 in the draft open, for those who weren't following along earlier. We'll let you know how that match finishes
Pretty
up.
unreal.
It'd be so cool if Finkel was the draft champion. But in the meanwhile, we've got a game to finish here. Eisenhauer with 2 Ornithopters and a Mirror Enforcer versus Jace and a Tarmogoyf.
Eric is looks like he's attempting to send Mike home with an ultimate Jace activation.
Against Affinity, no less.
It's not something you'd expect to see.
Alright, so Mike draws his card. And doesn't look like he's finding much action, probably because of the Jace, clearly. But alright, so Ornithopter
Jace
gets
is
in.
probably just putting more of nothing in his hand.
Yeah. Drops English to 8. And let's see, is that a Frogmite? Yeah, that looks like a Frogmite.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily think Eric should be letting this Ornithopter live for so long. It's dealing him 1 every turn, and it also, in a lot of ways, it's the only way he could really lose the game. If he also if he had shot it on the turn before, then if Mike somehow has Mirror Enforcer in hand or draws a Mirror Enforcer, then he can't play it.
Right.
Things like that. He could have also bounced the Mirror Enforcer back to Mike's hand and then bolted a guy, and then Mike would not have had the number of artifacts he would have needed to replay the Mirror Enforcer.
Mike has 2 Galvanic Blasts in his hand.
Ooh, he just doesn't have red
He
menace?
does not have a red source.
Ooh, and Eric's at 8, right?
Yeah.
So if he draws a red, it's just
If he draws a
over.
red, he can survive our Jace ultimate. Because the cards go back into his library. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so if he draws a red, he can survive under Jace Ultimate.
So
if his opponent...
surviving a Jace ultimate is not something you see every day, but of course, Eric's going to Jace Mike here. Mike has to have a mountain not a mountain, a Great Furnace or Springing Throne. Basilisk Collar. Oh, okay, never mind. That's going to make things pretty rough for Eisenhauer here.
No, I think he might just pass. I don't think he's going to attack with that Goyf.
And still has yet to use Jace. Let's see. Yep, the Goyf comes in.
He does. He comes in with the collared Goyf. Ooh. And Basilisk Collar is not something you necessarily think to see in Legacy, and from a deck that doesn't have Stoneforge Mystics.
Let's see. Ornithopter comes down. And okay, Etched Champion, interesting. I think Mike said that he couldn't find the 3rd Engineered Plague for his sideboard, so he played a 1 of Etched Champion instead.
It actually seems pretty good.
And
That's protection from all colors.
Can certainly stave off that Tarmogoyf here.
Yeah.
But that Jace is the bigger issue right now.
Yeah. How many more turns till Jace goes ultimate?
I thought it might be
Oh
ultimate this
no,
turn.
the Force might just...
Force.
Is there another blue card? Yeah, there is Stifle, correct?
Yeah, there's a Stifle in his hand. I mean, Mike still has no access to a red source in any case.
Yeah.
And Eric is sitting at a nice 11 life. I mean, Eric is in firm control of this game. It's just a matter of House goes down. All right, so there's Grim Lavamancer. And yeah, so Mike just still sitting on that double Galvanic Blast. And draws Thoughtcast. Okay, that's a pretty good card.
It's a
for him
good
to
card.
Draw. Thoughtcast, and we'll see if Eric feels like he should force it. Chooses not to. Mike draws 2 cards. I think I saw a Signal Pest there. So he did draw Springleaf
Ooh,
from,
Springleaf.
which is a way to make red mana. So there's his drum.
Okay, this turn you just attack with your Ornithopter, Mike.
And
Just with the Thopter.
let's see. Yep, so
Nice.
he just serves with that Thopter.
Okay.
Drops Eric down to 10.
Yeah, next turn he's got to, what he wants to do here is he's going to try to go for an end step Gal Blast.
Alright, so he brainstorms.
He doesn't get another blue card.
That's all lands for Eric English. I mean, not all lands,
No,
but
he's-
just land after land after land.
10,
And so yeah, he's got Stifle. His hand is Stifle, Force of Will, and lands.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wastelands down that Seat of the Synod. And Seat dies. Switches Basilisk Collar to Grim Lavamancer so Eric can start getting life, which is going to be pretty important. And now Mike has a decision to make. What's he going to do? I think he goes for Gal Blast. Yep, so
Yeah, he has to.
yeah, he has to. And does he target the Lavamancer or Eric?
I think he targets Eric, because the Lavamancer is just, you know, like, I mean, I think he targets the Lavamancer, because if he targets Eric, then as soon as the Lavamancer shoots once, it, like, negates half of it, and, like...
Right. And which is unfortunate, because he needed it for Mike, because he really needed...
Well, I mean, what's he doing? The Basilisk Collar's not equipped yet.
Alright, so he's considering activating the Grim Lavamancer and trying to figure out what he's targeting.
Sorry.
Mike waiting for Eric to make his play.
Alright, I'm sorry, okay. Go to 6.
Alright, Galvanic Blast hits the graveyard.
Oh, why is Lavamancer still off?
Looks like we must have targeted Eric.
Oh, so Eric's actually at
7 life.
7 life now?
But that Lavamancer can quickly make it 9 life.
Yeah.
Mike
And he can ping a
considering his
guy,
line
too.
of play. Taps, nope, no taps. Alright, so he's getting some mana, tapping out of red. And here comes his, oh, nope, goes back. Alright, Signal Pest, that's the new
He
plan.
didn't play Ravager? I thought he was going to play the Ravager.
No Ravager yet for Mike Eisenhauer. But that does seem to be in his hand.
I think the right play might just be to,
Yep.
I guess the Ravager will just force a, yeah, this is why I definitely would have shot that Lavamancer,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Galvanic Blast.
he's already just going to recoup all that Lavamancer damage, or all the Galvanic Blast damage.
Yeah, as soon as he untaps those Lavamancer, he's recouped the damage from that Galvanic
Yeah.
Blast.
And then that Lavamancer with the collar is just going to pick apart Mike's army.
Yeah, forever.
But,
Forever.
I mean, clearly Mike, maybe there's a line of play we didn't see where Mike Galvanic blasts Eric. And Eric draws 3 with Jace. He still lands for days, but he does find a second Force of Will.
Yeah, now he has 5 lands to cast it, so
And
he can
yeah,
cast 1 and have 1 for backup.
yep, definitely.
It makes things a lot harder for Mike.
And it should be a 7-3.
And yeah, down come Tropical Islands.
Yeah, it's a shame that Mike didn't shoot that Lavamancer.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's possible there was a line of play we didn't see where Mike felt that was the right call. But it did not end up working out for him very well. So, yeah, Lavamancer suited up with the collar. Is slowly dominating this board position away from Mike Eisenhauer. Eric finding nothing but lands with his Jace, but still finding plenty of advantage. It's interesting because he was going for what seemed to be the ultimate plan on Jace for so long, and now he's just been brainstorming. So, changed gears a little bit there.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice.
And let's see. So Ornithopter, Etched Champion, Signal Pest, Springleaf Drum, and Seed of the Synod on Mike's side of the battlefield are facing off against Jace the Mind Sculptor, Grim Lavamancer with Basilisk Collar, and Tarmogoyf. So he Galvanic Blast. I think he knows. Oh, and there's that forest. Mike untaps. Podcast.
Yep.
And Eric, what's it resolve?
No one might get here.
Wait,
Memnite.
interesting white card.
I believe it's a Memnite.
Memnite.
It's just a new school artifact.
It is a new school artifact. Alright, so draws 2. A new school artifact, much like every other artifact in Mike's deck. So I just missaw that as a white card. Alright, well, he had the opportunity to unload. And some Enforcers came down, but that Basilisk Collar is, I don't know if it's really going to matter. That
Basilisk Collar is just going to tear apart the team.
It's just going to tear apart those Mirror Enforcers.
I don't understand why he hasn't just get. He used 2 Gal Blasts on Eric's face.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there must have been a line of play in Mike's head that we just didn't see. And it didn't end up working out here clearly, and maybe it could have.
The other thing to remember too, though, is that Mike has literally been playing in every single round of both events.
It's true.
So
he's not yet skipped a
you
round.
get to a point where,
including top 8,
your brain just starts to become mush.
Yeah, where 4 damage to you're like, oh, Patrick Sullivan did 4 damage to me all the time. That sounds pretty good. Now take 4. But yeah. And Mike looking across, trying to assess the game state. Eric at 8 life, Mike at 9.
Yeah, it's a shame. I feel like Mike really would have had this game had he just shot that Lavamancer.
Well, I mean, the game would certainly be a lot closer, at the very least.
Well, Eric at this point would, be at 2 more life, but Mike would have 3 more creatures in play.
Right. Seems like a fair trade.
Yeah.
Let's see. So here comes a land from Eric. And Eric's sitting on what I believe is Grim Lavamancer, Force of Will, Stifle.
Yes, that's correct.
And another card I'm not totally sure about.
I'm not sure about the last card either. I think it may be just a fetch land.
Okay. And shuffles away that the top cards of the library that he put back with Jace to get Volcanic Island.
And that's such a sweet play the first time you do it. For those of you at home who do it with Brainstorm all the time, highly recommend bringing Jace to the table if you haven't for your Legacy decks.
Doing it every other turn,
Yeah.
so.
Doing it all the time, every time.
Only better than brainstorming once is brainstorming all the time. So Eric, probably going to lay another Lavamancer here. Yep, so he guns down a Mirror Enforcer. And I think this is going to be Lavamancer number 2. Yep, there's Lavamancer number 2.
Now, does I wonder if Mike has Shrapnel Blast, because if he does, he can just draw that and win, right? Well, his opponent has Force, so not even close.
Yeah, I don't think he has
Yeah,
Shrapnel Blast.
I
I'm
think-
pretty sure he's playing Galvanic Blast in lieu of anything like Shrapnel Blast. Here comes Arcbound Ravager. Gets spell snared.
It's a good card to have there.
Almost certainly. at a very nice bell snare. So here's that Frogmite. And Eric is slowly retching control of the game for the last several turns, and he's been playing very carefully, making sure not to mess up. But now the game looks pretty well at his control. His graveyard is well stocked for those Lavamancers. All right, so
It's interesting.
he gets in for 1 point of damage here with the Ornithopter plus Signal Pest. Assuming that's how he attacks. Okay, bolts down the Ornithopter, so no damage occurs.
Signal Pest has really proven itself to be a constructed contender.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it in the Clodotha Red decks and Standard.
Yeah, the standard Clodotha Red decks were really looking to be the dominant deck of the format when things first started. As people got to play more games, Clawblade was discovered.
Yeah, Cobblade, quite the deck. All right, so Wasteland takes down Mike Eisenhower's Artifact Land, and down goes Frogmite. Eric gains another 2 points of life. Man, what a game state! It looked good for Mike at one point, but it slipped out of his control.
Yeah, I mean, Eric can even use his other Lavamancer. To the point of where if Mike doesn't have another artifact he can play in this coming turn, then Eric's going to get to take Eric off Metalcraft and kill the Itch Champion.
Yeah. I mean, all Mike has right now are 4 artifacts, and not much else.
Unless I'm misunderstanding something, your Edge Oracle still has protection from color.
He thinking through his options pretty carefully.
Yeah, I think Grim Lavamancer is just such a powerful spell. We've seen in past 5Ks, we saw Ben Weinberg play a counterbalance top deck that was a very pure control deck, but he had Grim Lavamancers just out of nowhere. Just these random guys. Grim Lavamancers and Trinket Mages were his creatures.
Yeah, I mean, they're good
So-
guys, great against some beatdown creatures, depending on what you're playing against. And good at just controlling the game going along. And all right, so there goes Signal Pest, and Etch Champion is probably going to take the heat now, yeah. So Mike Eisenhower left with only a Springleaf Drum on the battlefield. And in goes Tarmogoyf. And Mike picks it up. A valiant effort by the young Mike Eisenhower, but
Canadian Thresh gets there.
yeah, Canadian Thresh does him in.
Absolutely perfect.